Yes, I Am the Veteran, hosted by Brandy Pett.
Welcome everybody. It's me, Brandy P, with the Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. And well, it's been a very interesting last few months. And we were gone fishing, as May would say. And I am very happy to have some amazing new co-hosts that we will be presenting as well. I'll bring them out one at a time. And so before we do have our guest for tonight come out, Miss Brenda Brown. I apologize. I'm a bit nervous. I will have Miss Amelia come out as well. So have her come to the stage. Hey, Miss Amelia, how are you doing, sis?
I am doing fantastic. And hello, everyone. As Brandy mentioned, I'm Amelia Peacock. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, certified mental health peer specialist, and a founder of the Sentinels Collective. And I would say, I'm very grateful to be able to be a part of this podcast. So, Brandy, thank you so much for the honor of allowing me to volunteer and be on here to be able to be a part of this with you, especially as my work is rooted in lived experience and strategic empathy. I'm really passionate about creating these spaces where people can be seen, heard, and their stories can be shared. And so with that, it is my honor to introduce the next co-host, someone who's not just a co-host, but she's also a sister in arms and a full-on force of nature, Pacifica Sauer, a Navy veteran.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pacifica Sauer. I'm a 6-time Emmy Award-winning producer-editor, and I'm also a Navy veteran. Also, I'm very curious about people and love to hear their stories, so I'm very honored to have a chance to sit on the podcast this evening and talk to the guests.
Well, I see a little bit of that Emmy there in the corner. So how was that experience?
They were, sorry, you put me on the spot.
Yes.
They were always a surprise, kind of I like to say they're kind of, they're shiny awards for how we suffer through projects. A lot of these things really take a lot out of your soul and a lot of your spirit, and to tell, it's an honor to get to tell some stories for the people that don't get a chance to really often get a chance to share theirs. So helping other people share their story and winning awards for it is an honor of mine that I get to carry, and I'm proud of that. So every time they come around, I don't know quite what to do with them because I don't feel like they're all of mine. They're always a team effort, and they always really belong to someone else because it's always someone else's story that I win the Emmys for. It's never my own. So nice to meet you too, Sarit.
But I'm excited for you. And so you have, I know, and we're going to talk about this at a later time, but you have a movie or a documentary coming out this fall. I can't talk today. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
About that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of documentaries out there. My first was The Invisible Project. It came out in 2019. Really, after COVID, we stopped shooting in 2019. But when COVID hit and the pandemic started and everything, it kind of threw a wrench in it. So it took a little longer to finish than I thought. But right now we're working on one called USMST. MST stands for Military Sexual Trauma, and we're trying to get the word out about the legislation, the peer support, and the opportunities available for survivors of military sexual trauma, no matter what day and age you suffered your incident. I've heard stories from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and even today we've got young people, they're finding them dead in their apartment. And it's time for all of that to stop. So we're very proud to release the trailer, and this fall we'll be having screeners for the documentary, and we're excited for that. Absolutely.
I bet. And we'll definitely be talking more about this at a later time, but I did briefly want to mention it as well because everyone is kind of getting to know you, amazing ladies. And with the podcast, when it was launched, it was something that it was never meant to be just a single woman veteran, because there's many different ways that you can serve and had many different kinds of experiences. And so I very much am thankful for you ladies for coming on and giving your amazing acumen and insight to some of our amazing guests like we have tonight. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring in on our guest tonight, Miss Brenda Brown. And I had the honor of meeting this lovely lady virtually with Elizabeth. And that's why I kind of paused at the beginning, because I didn't want to accidentally call Brenda Elizabeth or vice versa, because there were two amazing ladies. So welcome, Brenda. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you for having me. I am wonderful, and it just feels so good being with you all. I'm just so honored to be amongst my mother's sisters in arms.
Absolutely. And we're very honored to even have you on tonight. Just like Pacifica was saying, that hearing our sister stories is so important. And so you coming on with your book that you wrote about your mother's experiences as well as your own with her during that time. It's amazing. So I was reading this. So the name of the book is Echoes of a Little Brown Soldier Girl, A Daughter's Journey Through History. And I'm going to go ahead and put up the link for it later as well, because it is available on Amazon. But this is the picture of the book. And so did you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Brenda?
Well, I guess I will start from my birth. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, pretty much in the Fulton County area as a young child, which is a very well-known area now, close to downtown Atlanta. I watched Hank Aaron. I'm so proud to always say this. I grew up with the original Atlanta Stadium, so I attended a lot of Hank Aaron games. So I have to brag on that, because I saw the majority of his home runs as a little girl. And I saw the Beatles for the very first time entering the stadium. So those kinds of things I just have to share with you all. I'm bragging now. But so I'm pretty much, I had a military family, but my father, who served also in World War II, passed away at a very young age, and I was only 2. So I was raised with a single mother, and there were 6 of us. So she had her hands full, as you can only imagine. And we lived in Atlanta for most of my life, and we moved to DeKalb County, where I am now, when I was about 15 years old. I'm a mother, grandmother, and I have my baby pit bull. His name is Winter Picasso. That's my baby. And that's about it. I just love people. I love life. And I never met a stranger. So my mother says that I think she was right.
And so tell us about your journey, how you became an author.
Well, let's see. This is really my second book. I did a first little book in 2012, The Things Mama and Grandmama Used to Say, which is just little short stories about myths and legends, things that my mother, my grandmother, my great grandmother, and all the women of my village growing up believed. These were Christian women that, loved going to church and loved the Lord, but yet they had all these myths. And I was challenged by some coworkers years ago about putting that together. And I ended up putting those stories together from my real childhood years, and putting Bible correspondence truths on the end of those. So that's pretty much how I got a little taste, my foot wet in writing. I always wanted to, write something about my mother since she passed away, to pass to my son, to my grandkids, she's really a great, great, great grandmother. She would have been. So there's a lot of generations that have come after her passing. And I just wanted to leave some of her interesting story, because we always knew she served in the WAC. And we always watched a beautiful picture on the mantle. And it was just, I've heard little stories here, and I was able to maintain those stories in my mind. Believe it or not, it's amazing that I can remember so many stories told by my mom and her brother. So I guess I always had a little knack, and I like writing poetry and just writing things down, oral history, I guess. So that's pretty much where I got my beginnings, just listening to my elders, my uncles and aunts, and my mom, and just somewhere it all came together. It just really came together after finding out who she really was. I never knew her unit by name. So that was a part of my research that was mind blowing. It was a mind blowing Google search where she popped up, her picture. She was with the battalion over in Birmingham, England. And believe me, that was where my whole book turned around. I had to go back and resurface the book because now I was able to literally trace her footprints through her military journey as well as her life that I knew all too well. So,
Wow, that is so amazing, Brenda. And that just, so your mom, you're talking about your mother and you
yes.
tracing her footsteps and connecting all those dots. So
Mhm.
I'm curious, your mom, she was Willie Bell Irvin Partridge, and she
That is good.
served in the legendary 6888.
Mhm.
Tell us about her and how did she come to join that unit? What's that story?
Well, it is an amazing story indeed. To go back to how she ended up in the military, we'll start there. As we know, she grew up in a very small town in Colquitt County, Moultrie, Georgia, which is several miles before you get into Jacksonville. Farmer. Her parents were very poor, but they were farmers and they were able to, put what they had, their resources together. That was 10 kids, first of all. Yes, a very large family. And so my mother always had a dream. She and her best friend, Margaret, they wanted to go to Tuskegee. She talked about that story when I was growing up. And they wanted to both be nurses, wanted to be the first nurses in their family. And my mother dreamed to be a nurse at that time and to attend college almost came true after high school. But her sister, which is 1 year older, decided, you know what? My fiance is going in the military. She put off her wedding plans. This is her sister, and she decided to come to Atlanta to attend Spelman College and become a teacher. There was a little money there in the savings job my grandfather had, and the first child had the right to that money. So that shattered my mother's dream. It was shattered. And after high school and being a very good student, from what I hear, she had to start doing domestic work. She worked the fields. She tried everything in her power to become, independent where she could pay her way through school because her parents just, there was no way. There were 8 other kids at home. So it just couldn't happen. Her brother told her about a Negro newspaper that his recruiter told him they were looking for Negro women at that time, is what they called them. And they were, recruiting. And this became my mother's plan B because after working several jobs out in the field, I mean, the cotton field, the peanut fields, you name it, she was doing it, trying to save money. But most of that money went back into the family. So this became her plan B. And after she found out that this is true, she looked into it. There was no place for her to sign up in her hometown for Negro women at that time. She had to travel to Tallahassee, Florida in order to enlist. She passed everything in flying colors, but she kept it a secret from her parents until about maybe 2, 3 weeks before time to leave. She swore her brother, her best friend, and her beau to secrecy. And I thought that was sweet. My uncle shared that with me, but she was just afraid. She didn't know how to tell him because they figured a war is going on, a real war is going on. And my grandparents, grandmother said, this is no place for a woman. So she was like not hearing it. So my mother knew that. She kept it a secret until my uncle Buddy, who also went in at the same time, told her, you have to tell them what you've done because you're on your way. And she did. And so with that being said, after completing her basic training, you have to read the book to get the goodies. But after completing her basic training, from what I was told, she went to Baker School. She was a cook. And also, I understand now, they all had to do postal work as well as other jobs. So that was amazing. But she attended Baker School. So after coming out of Baker School, and my brother said it was in South Carolina, I believe, Fort Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. I may be off with that. But long story short, she was told when she got back to the base that she had been picked to go overseas. She didn't believe it. Someone told her, that she was going overseas. And so now she had another secret that she was, didn't know how to tell her parents. Hey, I've been chosen to go overseas. From what I understand from reading Major Charity Adams' book, I'm sorry, that she picked the creme de la creme, the best of the best. And that alone, when I read that book, I was just over the moon, because I'm starting to go back into the story from my uncle and my mom, and just reading how she actually became a 6 AAA was just mind blowing. So she was picked. I'm assuming she was very athletic coming up, a tomboy, and for many many years, my grandmother just she got mad at my grandfather, from what I understand, because he taught her to play every sports, and she loved fishing. So she didn't love dresses, but later on she did, but that was because she had to get military trained. But yeah, so this is how she actually came to be. There was no money to attend college. Her brother brought her a plan B, and it worked. She found herself from the fields of Moultrie, Georgia, to the fields of England. So it was amazing.
So tell me, how were the women chosen to serve in the 6 888? Was there a test, or like you said, she was the creme de la creme?
Yes.
How did they have the cream rise?
Well, according to Major Charity Adams, and it's in her book, they picked the creme de la creme. They picked those, I guess, that really did well in basic training, well on their tests, because from what I understand, there were several classes constantly going on. And whatever it was, she was among those that showed very good promise, and they couldn't have picked a better cook. So, yeah.
And what were some of the hardships the women faced during World War II?
Discrimination, segregation, you name it. There's a story in my book that my mom shared with me, and I just happened to see it in Major Adams' book. Out of all the stories, because I have several that she told us about, some happy and funny, and some not so happy and funny. But yes, there was, so separate, and they just was treated so differently. And Major Adams, she was the type of person that wasn't going to be on her watch. She wanted the women's treated fairly. And from what I understand and from what I've read from others, she really cared for these women, and she tucked them up under her wing. So discrimination, at home and abroad, it never stopped. There's a story in my book that's, I've heard it before, I've read it online, about Black people in general growing tails after midnight. Amazingly, I found the same story in Major Adams' book. She talked about the very same, and then it was in the movie. So I said, okay, my stories, I was able to verify so many of my stories that my uncle told more than my mom. She was a little secretive about a lot of things. She didn't tell it all, but Uncle Buddy, and he's in the book, good old Uncle Buddy, he told it all.
I love that. That is, wow. That is such a difficult experience to handle and be able
Yes.
to walk through. And that really does show the resiliency and strength that your mother
Yes.
carried with her, as many
Absolutely.
of the other women's in the 6
Yes. They were
as
some
they all
strong
were.
women. Mhm.
Absolutely. So with that, like, what inspired you to write this specific book about your mother's experience? I know you said you got started kind of with your other things about the myths and the things in
Mhm.
your family, but what
Mhm.
inspired you to talk specifically about your mom's history?
Well, she was my shero, and she have always been. She raised the six of us by herself, with the neighbors, of course. It always took a village, but she was the person I saw at, first thing in the morning, and the last face I saw at night. We went through a lot. My mother didn't have an easy life. Life was harder after she returned home. In France, she always said how well they were treated, and so I've just always admired her, even from afar, when she didn't even know I was admiring her, because she was real tough on me. And I think she saw something, and she was determined that whatever it was, she was going to make me do better. And I didn't understand it, didn't appreciate it at the time, but those days, and memories never left me. And I'm appreciative as I got older and became a mother myself. I really appreciate it. The woman that she was, I've seen her wait on the six of us to eat. and she would just find things to do. Well, what she was really doing was making sure the 6 of us was full before she made her own plate. And I've just seen her, just struggle working 2 and 3 jobs. She worked the CDC, she worked for the VA hospital, which was the old 48 hospital. And then she would do parties. She met so many prominent people and they just loved her. And she would do parties for all these famous peoples in Atlanta, and boy, we reap the benefits of that. And so I just saw this strong lady that has always meant so much to me that I, as a child, didn't know how to tell her that. So I wanted to save every memory I had and to be able to have a chapter of her military just come open like magic. It's just a true blessing from God. The way it happened, I'm just indebted. I'm just so grateful and I'm so humble that I can share with others because it's amazing to even think about someone coming from so far, so poor, and she was born with everything against her. She was born poor and black and female. So it was all totally against her from birth. But to see her come up and get some of the things in life that she dreamed of, it just makes me feel good because she wanted certain things and she got those things before her passing. And I'm just so grateful.
So she grew up, not only was she poor, black, and female, but she also grew up before the age of civil rights. And
Yes.
we all hear a lot about Atlanta in the 60s and the 50s, the 70s, all the way through. And even today, we got bad problems.
Yes.
So why do you think that these women would want to join the army and serve a country that did not see them as human beings or as equals, as in people, Americans standing up to go fight this war, a real war, World War II, on foreign soil against an enemy that was bigger than life?
Yes. Well, that's a big question and a very good one because I've often pondered that in my own head and today still do. It just amazes me. Um, and they were told by Major Adams' book that there was a real war going on. When these women were chosen, they were given time to go home and explain this to their parents. And they even had a chance to say, I'm not going, I'm going. So that was one thing, that made me proud of the 855 that went because they had a choice. They was given a choice during this real crucial time. It was a war going on. And so these women knew that they loved their country, and I truly believe that, but they knew that their country did not love them back. I believe that. But there was some fire, there was a certain fire in these women, that these women were born with this fire. It was something that they wanted to do for their country, and they felt very, it was very, not only them, most of them, grant you, wanted the education, and I cannot blame them for that because the government promised once your services are complete, you will be able to continue your education. And that was that was her number one reason for saying, okay, I'm going to do this. That was her reason because she knew that with that education, she would be able to help her parents, and that was always on her back burner. She never kept it, a secret. She wanted to bring them out of the property that they were living in and help with the other siblings. And she and her brother was able to send back, allotments. And so all that, and a lot of these women wanted to help their parents. A lot of them came from poor homes, maybe not everybody, but I truly think that in their hearts, they wanted to serve. They knew there was something that they could do to make a difference, and they were set up to fail because you gave these women 6 months duration, 6 months to move a mountain, so, and they didn't know that until they got there, but there was, several mountains for 6 months, and they were able to put it together, put that sisterhood together, put a plan together, and they made it happen in 3 months. So I think that these women all had a fire, a desire in them to do something great for their country, and it happened. They didn't know they were making history, and history didn't. These women, they made history. History didn't make them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And can you tell us about the journey to have the 6888 receive the Congressional Gold Medal?
Yes, ma'am. Those were some sweet months, I was asked to join the committee, the campaign during that time by Mr. Carlton Philpott and retired Master Sergeant Elizabeth Frazier. Elizabeth and Mr. Philpott both have a special place in my heart because, as you know, he spearheaded the monument in Kansas City, and Liz was a part of that, as well as retired Colonel um, Etna Cummins. So being on that committee, and they gave me Georgia and Florida to start making calls to Congress, and I was so nervous. Something I just didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I would pick the days that I'm off because I still work full time, and I would just set up like I was at home with my little office, my little desk, and my little phone, and I would just start marking off what they would say the response, if it was a yay or a nay, maybe or whatever. But believe it or not, once I started making those calls, and I talked mostly to the assistants,
Yep.
never really talked to the congressman or the congresswoman, but that was okay. The message was passed, the votes was cast, and it just made me, and it was a long time coming. And at one point, it was a standstill, and we didn't know, but we kept pushing our way through. And there was a first ceremony, which was pretty much just the acknowledgement of what we've done. But this April the 29th, 2025,
Yep.
was the real deal. And I'm at odd, I'm still on the moon, and I'll come down sometime soon, not sure when. But there wasn't enough tears, smiles. That place, you could just feel the atmosphere was amazing. We are really here in the Capitol, and it was just beautiful. And in my book, I was blessed enough to capture that picture of my son and I standing by the Congressional Gold Medal, and just amazing. Amazing. I met Major Adams' son and daughter, and just amazing night.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Just that experience alone. Did they let you touch the coin? I have to ask.
I want to
Security guard don't even be like, hey.
I'm not sure because I think so. My son, if I didn't, he did.
I like eyeball it really hard. They were like, ma'am, your eyeballs are like breaking.
I know. My baby, bless his heart, he was my mother's first grandson, and proud, I cannot tell you.
No.
The tears in his eyes, and he's going on 48 in a couple of more days. The tears in his eyes, the proud smile up. I would just wish, and I kind of feel in my own spirit that these women were allowed to look down at this ceremony. Liz and I, we're crazy enough to believe that God said, yeah, you can attend from heaven, yes.
Well, if you think about it, in Congress, they have that. Like when you first walk in, you're on the second floor, and then you have to come down and around. So
Yes.
I think it's very possible they had that murderer's row in the back, kind of just just there waiting and watching and getting to listen to that nice band that played.
Absolutely, it was beautiful. When I tell you, nothing that I can't really explain it. It was beautiful. I was at odd. I was sitting there. I felt myself, but it was like I was on a cloud. I was just so proud and couldn't believe that day was finally here. So
I was happy to see them finally get that Congressional Gold Medal too.
Absolutely.
Very overdue, but very, very well deserved.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
Very well deserved.
And that, just the level of amazing work that all of these ladies did, the fact that the things that you've brought up, that they were not even wanted by our own country, but yet they chose, they had that fire in them to go and move forward.
Yes.
So with that, I'm curious, why do you think women didn't talk about their service after World War II? Even though there was something that needed to be there, why didn't they discuss it afterwards, do you think? What, in your opinion?
Well, that's just kind of interesting and a good question again. My mother, like I said, she was very limited when she talked. Now, she bragged about things like, well, I'll tell you one thing. She saw the Queen, and I thought she was talking about Queen Elizabeth II. She was not. She was talking about Queen Elizabeth's mother, so I had to do my research because that story cleared to be true. She talked about how well they marched, how well they dressed, how neat they were, which I was a chubby, and I'm still chubby, but I was a chubby child, and I didn't want to hear that part of the story because they were so neat in their uniforms. And but she bragged about those things, and she just the places they were able to go when they had, little weekend passes. And she loved Paris. She had a love affair with Paris, and
Mhm.
she always bragged about that Paris having wine with every meal, but she never really talked about a lot of the harsh stuff that
Mm.
happened. Only thing she really shared with me was about the tail, growing the tail. And when she would tell me that story, as you were reading the book, we were both in tears at the end of her telling me that story. When she explained what tail, because I was very young, and she explained it, I was literally on the floor. She was along with me, and it was just because she's always had diverse friends. And
Mm.
I don't know if she ever, I'm sure coming up in Moultrie, she saw a lot. They had to cross the street. They wasn't able to look a white person in the eyes. And my uncle almost lost his life by just complimenting how beautiful one lady was. And but him being a black child was not supposed to do that. And my grandmother pretty much begged for his life because he was admiring how pretty this lady was, that they were just downtown, and he just never seen. Evidently she had on her makeup and she was looking real pretty. But Uncle Gene today has never forgotten that story. So
Mm.
my mother, they saved a lot of whatever it was. I'm not sure. My uncle told me about the times my mother liked to have lost her life, and she didn't share a lot of that with me. It's like they were kind of told not to say certain things, censor what you say, once you get out. I'm thinking
Mhm.
she lost a good friend in the military, and it was one of the ladies in the movie that they was portrayed was two, but there were actually three that died, and it was a pretty much like a jeep and car accident. So one of those ladies, and I almost have her pinned down to be Mrs. Bilo. A picture I found, and one of the CNN photographers told me that was the same lady. So it looked like it could be Miss Bilo. That was my mother's good friend that died. So she talked about that a little bit, but never called her name or how she died. And she told me stories about bathing in her helmet. Well, I saw that in the movie. I heard that in the movie. So I'm assuming that Miss King was still alive, and she shared that with Mr. Perry. A lot of
Mhm.
things that he got for the movie. There were maybe six women at that time still alive. And yeah, so she didn't share a whole lot. She censored a lot of things, and she talked around a lot. But yeah, they were treated, like she said, as a unit. They seemed to have the best sisterhood. They
Mhm.
were self-sufficient. Her hair was always so pretty. She had little short hair, but they had their own beauty shop, and they were self-sufficient. Everything they needed, they did it themselves. Whatever they needed, they did it themselves. And so, with that being said, she only told limited things she wanted us to know, but I'm sure there was a lot, going on there. And I'm sure mentally, a lot of those women, including my mother, came home and they needed some help talking. And so sad they never was able to just say something is bothering me. They
Mhm.
had to live with that. And that made me sad because I kind of knew. I used to make jokes about being shell shocked, but that was I was a child, and that was a very ignorant statement because it was really true.
Mhm.
They were targeted a lot. My mother, they almost lost their life traveling to Scotland. The German U-boats, they had to zigzag their way out of that. They got to the I guess on land, and there was another little rocket or something targeting them. And
Mhm.
several times, I'm assuming, they had to have the blackout. They had to work in real dangerous conditions. So I think it was just so sad that they couldn't talk about it, and there was no help. When they reached solid ground coming back home, they really needed counseling, if nothing else, and they never received it.
Was there anything you learned in all your research that you'd like or that you'd like the listeners to know about the 6888 that maybe they hadn't, that kind of shocked you or surprised you that maybe we haven't heard?
Well, there was so much, and yes, I would like to share some things that maybe a lot of people don't know. But so the three women that were killed
Mhm.
in the accident, they had to literally chip in, and that was in the movie, but that was true. They had to chip in to get these women a proper burial, and they collected money, so you can imagine that the payroll wasn't that big, but they all pulled their money in for that. Major Adams said, and I wonder was that my mother, because just looking at the picture of the real lady, Miss Barlow, my mother, and she looked like they could have been the same size, and they had to like measure, get, for the casket, and they had to do all these things. And there was someone in the battalion that had worked in a funeral home, so a mortician. So they were able to do all this to get these women ready. And a lot of people don't know that really happened. That was just not something that Mr. Perry wrote in the movie. So sad that the military did not see it necessary to give these women a proper burial, and they had to do it at their expense, which they were proud. I will tell you, when the president passed away, I do remember hearing stories about how fearful they were. And if you read Major Adams' book, I do believe she mentioned that. It was a real sad day because they really knew that the covering they had over President Roosevelt over them, as
Mhm.
long as First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt
Yeah.
and President, yes, they were good because
Mhm.
it was that strong First Lady whom I wished I could meet in person. I know I can't. She's been gone long, long ago, but she have a special place in my book of dedication. She and Dr. Mikhail Bethune, because these women were powerful. So, it was just so much that they did. They sent money back to the States for the Negro College Fund. A
Wow.
lot of people, they don't talk about that, but they did that. And they literally sent the money, they pooled the money, and Major Adams made sure that that money, and this was from her battalion of women, and they made sure they did it on a regular base. There were times where they actually, my mother, I'm not sure, but my mother played volleyball, and I see what there were several tournaments, and I can only imagine, since my mother actually didn't tell me that, I wasn't at liberty to, you know, guess, but she did do a lot of sports. And I'm assuming she was on that powerful volleyball team. But there's so much that they actually did. There was a lot of times they, mingled, and they were out, and they was allowed to go out and visit the French people, and they had meals, tea, at these people homes. And so a lot of people need to know they just didn't sit there working, working, working. There were times that they were given liberty, passes, and they were able to just go out in the countryside and just enjoy and see sights and sounds.
Oh, wow.
Outstanding. Who knew?
And Brenda, I know you had mentioned this with May's podcast, but I did want to ask it more time. Could you tell us a little bit about the general scene at the end? What happened after? Because it kind of like the end of the 6888, like it cuts off right when the general, like that, the large scene where she's like over my dead body. You said
Yes,
that she did in fact say that, and
she
then
did.
afterwards, like there was something that happened,
Hmm.
like with the court martial. Did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, that is so true, but I think the names maybe a little bit, um, but I will get to that. So that scene is true. Um, she was told that since she didn't do a good job, that he would order a white major to come and run the battalion. And that just, I think that hit her nerve. That's like the straw that broke the camel's back. And
Mhm.
she did say over her dead body. And she was in fear of being court-martialed. Of course, that was her superior. I'm telling you, these women were full of fire. That's all I could say. They were something else. But because I don't know how I could have handled that one, but she did. And she was fine. Everything worked out in her favor. She was a strong woman, and she did such a good job. And I think the fact that they were able to get that mail process and to come up, but they were set up to fail, and they did not. But yes, so now in the movie, when she's with this particular, when they're doing the march, okay, so he actually is not the man that when they were actually doing the march, that was a proud moment because Major Adams, he had asked if her battalion could march, and she just blurted out, they were the best of the best, not knowing, exactly what she knew, what she had trained those who had been in her battalion in Des Moines, Iowa. And so she knew what she pretty much had, but she was going out on the limb. So, yeah, so it was a proud moment versus a little bit. The movie have to give you a little action, and I'm not going to take away from that. So just kind of peek in the book. I think I found a picture that was public domain. So you'll literally see exactly who that was she was standing up next to. And it was really a proud moment. It wasn't like an agitated type of moment. No, it was a very proud moment. And he even wrote home the general to her father, explaining, and this is in her book, that she was just something else. She was a wonderful woman, and she did a wonderful job with her battalion. So that's amazing. But Tyler had to write some things to kind of make it interesting, and I'm okay with that.
Where is the 6888 monument located? As I understand, there's two, right? There's one official one and one unofficial one. Maybe I'm incorrect.
Well, no. So it was spearheaded by Commander Carlton Philpott, U.S. Navy, and like I said, Elizabeth, Etna, they all were a part of that. That is Elizabeth there. What a heartfelt picture that is. Mm-hmm. That's an iconic picture. So this is in Kansas, and this is at the memorial. And it's mostly all Black military there. And this is the first project. This is the first monument that I know of. And I was there in November 18th, 2018 for the unveiling. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And you can find that entire ceremony online. Just do the 6888 monument ceremony and you will see it in its entirety.
That's amazing. Speaking of, so do you have any upcoming events, any upcoming signings? What's going on and how can our listeners get connected?
Well, yes, I'm first of all, working full time. It is so interesting. I'm juggling and I'm learning to do it well. So let's see. I have a couple of signings that I've completed recently. I was in my mother's hometown of Moultrie, and the library was where that event took place, and it was hosted by the Daughters of the American Revolution. And these powerful, loving women just have taken me under their wings, and they hosted this book signing, and it was a wonderful turnout. I was able to connect with some family members there that I haven't seen in years. So you can also find that online. There was a very nice interview. And it was just a wonderful thing. So I'm still just, I'm soaking all of this in. My first book signing was at Tall Tales Bookshop in Atlanta in DeKalb County, and it was wonderful. So many friends came out to support me, and that was pretty much my kickoff. So I have been invited to the Jimmy Carter Library to do a book signing in March during Women's History Month. I am still in
that is amazing.
It kind of takes my breath away in a good way, because I'm saying to myself, first of all, is this really happening? And I have to pinch myself. But yes, I've met with the director already, and it was because when Liz was here for the Montford Ford Point Marine, which I received an award from the Marines for my mom and the 6888s about 3 weeks ago. That was a beautiful ceremony. And just took Liz and me being from here. We went to visit the Jimmy Carter Center, ran into two young ladies that worked there and shared the story about our stamp campaign we have going now. And Liz told them about my book. And so the young lady said, well, we do book signings here. And I'm thinking maybe not, maybe I don't know. And I left a card and the rest is history. So I'll be going sometime and we're getting it together. But March for the Women History Month, I will be hosted by the library. They are doing the same thing as the Daughters of American Revolution. This is a season in my life I can't tell God thank you enough. I just look up and smile and just leave it there because I can't say thank you enough. Oh, let's see. Oh, yes, there's another one coming up, and that will be hosted by the Cab County Library, and the AKA sisters are hosting that. And it's like I met this lady through another work at the library. She passed along my information. I received the call, and now we're working on the big auditorium. And I want to say it's in DeKalb County. Stonecrest is in that Stonecrest area. So I never really been over there. I'm just so excited to be getting it together. I'm trying to get my books all ordered where I can get my supplies ready. So this is some exciting times.
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you so much for sharing those.
And you're most welcome down here in Texas. If you ever like to do a signing, I most certainly have no problems helping get signed up for a signing down here in the Lone Star State.
Okay. I tell you what, I will love to come. I love travel and I love people. So I think we can make that happen.
All right.
Good for you being in this season of your life. You've certainly done a lot of living, and thank you for, telling these stories, before they get lost to
Yes.
to the time eater. But there's a lot of people out there that struggle with their everyday life, and wait for this season to come. Do you have any advice for our listeners that might be waiting for their season, their flowers to come?
I do. And I want to share something with the listeners from my mother's mouth. And she always told me as a young child, if you could write it down, you can make it come to life. And I didn't take that story literally when she said it, that saying, that quote. But she would always tell me, if you write it down, you can make it come to life. And if you don't believe in you, nobody else will believe in you. So it just start with you believing in you. You know what it is that's in your heart of hearts. Go from there. Start right there. Whatever that something is, start right there and just believe it and just see it through. I stopped, I started, I stopped, I started. I almost gave up. But my faith is very strong. And that's what I know pushed me over the edge. And I'm so glad that I didn't just put that pen down, put the story down, because I've always collected oral history. And I'll tell everyone, oral history is a must. We must talk to our elders. We must talk to our aunts, our uncles, those people that were here before us, and write those things down because they are so important. Maybe it's not for a book. Maybe it's just for you to pass on to your kids' kids. It's important. Oral history is powerful. So I like to leave them knowing that. Find that, whatever it is, and stick to it and see it through. See it through the tears, the frustrations, all of that. See it. That's right.
You got it.
I love it. And we truly appreciate you coming on and speaking with us, Brenda. We know we have a very busy schedule, but I mean, history definitely needs to be celebrated and talked about. And we absolutely appreciate you coming on and talking about your journey as well as your mother's legacy and the legendary wax of the 6888. Those ladies are definitely Mashiro. So, hearing about them, I always love to learn about history, and I feel like there's so much of it that never makes it into history books. So I definitely love to hear as much as I can. And so we very much appreciate you spending some time speaking with us. And so we'll go ahead and close up the podcast for tonight, but we'll have everyone give final thoughts, and then we'll go ahead and close out. But before we did do that, I did want to let everyone know we did post about a free knife making class that would be taught by Forge and Fire champion Tobin Nieto of Stonehaven Knife Works. And I wasn't sure how long it would take for me to book a class of 10 veterans for 9/11. Yeah, 3 hours was the answer to that question. And I wasn't even trying. So it's safe to assume that you guys like the knife making courses. So we're definitely gonna have to continue them. But so this class has filled. I have not announced it yet, but It has filled, but anyone that is not on that list, we will put you in for future classes. So don't think that we're forgetting about you guys because of the fact that it's really important to push yourself, and we would never want to do that for anybody. So definitely just if you are still interested, still message us and let us know if you're concerned because you have limitations or because you're female. I can assure you that I'm disabled and female, and I've made many knives or cookware, servingware, bacon flippers. You'd be amazed. Like I have a shepherd's hook outside for a wind chime. Then he made a 9-foot piece of rebar. Yeah, that was a challenge. But the point is to push yourself. But I guess I would piggyback a little bit on what Brenda was saying as far as pushing yourself in progress, and say that even if you are falling on your face, you are still moving forward. And that is still considered progress. Go ahead, Amelia.
No, absolutely. And I just, Brenda, I just want to say again, thank you so very much for taking the time to share this history with us, because it is so very important to know that these were the ladies that chose, as you mentioned, chose to serve, as we still choose to serve our country. And that just gives me goosebumps that they had that amount of strength, that power, and that resiliency, and just that utter grit. And I love it. And so I thank you so very much for sharing the insights that you have, and thank you for spending your time with us tonight.
Well, I want to thank you all for hosting and having me. I feel so humbled. And I would be in trouble if I don't mention that we have started a campaign for a forever stamp.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Well, let us know the details. We will be happy to share as you guys get more information. No worries.
I will send you the links, and you all please just sign the petition. We are over 4,000 online, and not sure how many on paper, but we are moving for a forever stamp where these women will be forever remembered with their forever stamp. So thank you all for having me. I feel so blessed. And anytime you want me back, please just call.
Oh, anytime. And make sure, Elizabeth, welcome back, or welcome on as well. Bring
Absolutely.
her. We love our Army sisters. But absolutely, I please let us know how we can support. I know, speaking of, at the Women Veterans Engaged Conference, we were just talking about the 6 888s Congressional Gold Medal ceremony with a large nonprofit founder. And I believe I'm going to have to follow up and let them know about this forever stamp. Make sure they're supporting.
Yes, I have it right here. I don't know if you can see it.
Wow. That's
beautiful.
Yeah, I will make sure that you all get copies.
Yes.
And you don't have to make, donations. We just need the signatures. Yeah, because we're getting there. We are getting there.
And then I will, please, like I said, we're happy to support, and I'll get the information from you, and we will absolutely be sharing it with all of our viewers. And anyone who's interested in Brenda's book, Echoes of a Little Brown Soldier Girl, A Daughter's Journey Through History, I did put the Amazon link in the comments for tonight. But you can also just type it in Amazon, and it'll come right up as well. But I did put that link on here as well. And I did want to show a couple pictures that I didn't show earlier. But this is the amount of mail that these ladies had. And this wasn't just one hanger. And I worked in a post office in APO for one Christmas season. And I can tell you right now, I can only imagine what they had to deal with, like oceans of mail. But they would literally be stacked to like the top of the warehouse, like these bags.
Yes.
And was there 11 hangers that were full, something like that?
I'm not sure, but there were hangers. There were millions of pieces of mail. Those women, they had their work cut out for them. And let me tell you, I do have a website for the books. If you want a signed copy, the readers can go to my website, which is Madear, MADEAR, story, STORY.com. And I will sign the books and send them myself. So that's MadearStory.com.
Well, that's where I'm going to get mine.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right? Like a little library happening.
Thank you so much.
I mean,
Miss Brenda, thank you.
Absolutely.
You are so
Very
welcome.
much
Thank
appreciate
you all
it.
for hosting. I am so grateful. Believe it, when I leave here, I am very grateful. This means the world to me to continue to have an opportunity to tell the story. Thank you.
Well, Fredia, yeah, you understand what I'm talking about with the APO wildness that happens. It's crazy in there.
Yes. Yes.
One of our listeners actually, she worked post
Germany.
office, and yeah, like I had to, I volunteered for it because they were so overwhelmed, and it wasn't my my FSE, but it was something that I was like, well, you know, I'm always a very curious person, so I'm like, let me see how APO mail works. It's a
Interesting.
while back there.
One just last quick question, Brenda.
Mm-hmm.
On that, the stamp, is that photo that Brandy showed? Isn't your mother in that photo?
Yes, ma'am, she is. As a matter of fact, I'm going to just do a little quick something here. Okay, so if you can see,
I think
okay,
she'll put the photo back up.
I think
okay,
it slightly cut it off though, where she's
okay.
at.
She's,
She's
yes,
slightly to the right.
There.
she's
Yeah.
right on the end, second row.
Oh,
That's
wow.
and that's the iconic picture that they use. And this is the very first picture after Googling my mother. The women's that served overseas, Negro women, popped up, and I almost flipped over the chair. My brother was in the next room when I screamed, and he ran in thinking the worst. And the rest is history. I know, crazy.
Herstory. Your
I've
mom's
seen
really part of herstory.
I found her in several more pictures since then and books. So I knew that this is from above. This is just not coincidental.
Yeah.
No such thing as coincidence.
Grateful.
Nope.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we absolutely appreciated every moment you've been on our podcast, and please come back on with any
Absolutely.
updates, and please let us know what's going on with the Forever Stamp as well, because I very much would like to support.
I will send that information as soon as we're off, and please pass it on and share it, and we just need a signature. We're almost there. We wanted 5,000 for the online, and we're over 4,000. So we're there. We're on our way, and letters have went out. You know, we had to write personal letters. Why this is so important, and so we're just trying to flood everything. You know, you can't do emails. You can't do anything, but you have to do a personal letter. So yes, it's so worth it. This campaign has really just made me want more. So this was just, we're greedy. We want a forever stamp.
Honestly, I think that it's very well deserved, and I would very much love to see women that were tireless workers of the Postal Service get their own stamp as legendary heroes. Like,
Yes.
couldn't think of more deserving ladies.
This is another dream come true. So you all know, if we have a ceremony, I would definitely let you all know about it, because we love ceremonies.
Hey, celebrate your accomplishments. That's important. Clap for yourself. Believe in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you all for sharing that.
Absolutely. And we will go ahead and have my daughter wrap us up. We made an agreement that she did the outro as long as she went to bed on time. So this is how it's worked out. She has to get out of
Okay.
all right, Aurelia, take us away. And thank you so much for coming on. We are Yes, I Am the Veteran podcast. And we hope you all have a good night. And thank you again so much, Brenda, for joining us.
Thank you all. I feel the love. Thank you.
All right, Aurelia, take us away.
Hi, I'm Aurelia. Just a reminder, smash like, hit subscribe, and click the bell. Please give me my mommy some hearts. Yay, veterans!